What's up, guys? This is Alan. In today's episode, we're going to be busting another myth, and that is drought-tolerant plants. Yes, I'm sick and tired of hearing people saying that they're looking for a drought-tolerant plant because they don't want to water it. That is a completely lie, and in today's episode, I'm going to be discussing the reasons why that is. So, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so let's get something out of the way. And that is, drought-tolerant just means it takes longer to die. It does not mean it doesn't require water. All the time, I get customers coming to the nursery complaining their trees are not fruiting, complaining their trees are not growing. It's been several years. They think they're sick. They've been to several nurseries and they've been told that they're not fertilizing or they're not using some magic juice, and that's the reason why their plants are not growing. Well, and then they tell me that they have drought-tolerant plants, so there's no way that is water related. So yes, so that's going to be a trigger for me, especially if you come to my nursery and you're complaining your plants are not growing, but yet you think you don't have to water because you have a drought-tolerant plant. Like I said, drought-tolerant just means it takes longer to die. It does not mean it doesn't need water. So let's go ahead and talk about it a little more. So cacti in my area are drought-tolerant. Why? Because these plants here, they hold water inside their pads. You see all these pads over here? They're all swollen and fat. Yeah, they're full of water on the inside. So if you don't water these guys here, the only reason they don't die right away is because they have a reserve inside their pads. They will drink the water inside the pads before they die. So that's the only reason why cactus lives in the desert, because they can hold water. And as they deplete their water, the pads are gonna get skinny. You can see that one's skinnier than this one right here, and you can see this one over here shriveling up. So that means this guy needs water. You know how long ago I watered this guys? It's probably been 2 weeks, and I'm in the desert. This guys get full sun most of the day, and just now they're starting to show signs that they need water, and they are in the containers, so they don't even have a developed root system to actually even take up more water to go longer without water. So let's say you have another plant. Maybe you have a fig. Does fig hold water? No, figs does not hold water as much as a cactus. But the reason what makes figs drought tolerant is the type of root system it has. Figs in general, they have a deep root system. It goes several feet into the ground, extremely aggressive roots. So if one area doesn't have water, they can easily grow roots in another area very quickly, faster than most plants out there. So that's why they can go a long time without water. So if you have a fig and it's not growing because you thought it was drought tolerant, now you know why. Because even if the plant is able to get water in a different area, if there is no water anywhere around it, it's just going to take longer to die without water. It doesn't mean your plant's gonna grow and give you fruits. Another plant that is very common in my area to be called drought tolerant are going to be pomegranates. Pomegranate plants have a taproot system that goes straight down in the ground. They go very deep in the ground, and that's the reason why they can go a long time without water. If you just bought a pomegranate tree and you leave it on in the sun for a day, 2 days here in the desert, full sun, this plant is going to defoliate overnight. Even though it's drought tolerant, it will die within a day to 2 days in full sun if you don't water it. Why? Because the plant is in a container. It doesn't have any roots in the ground to make it stronger. The only time they become drought tolerant is if they actually have been in the ground and they have a fully developed root system. In my area, that takes at least a year. Until then, if you don't water it, it's going to die. Now let's say your pomegranate has been in the ground for a few years. It's not growing, it's not giving you fruits, and you're wondering what is going on. Even though the plant is drought tolerant, if you don't water it, your plant's not going to grow. Your plant is not going to hold fruit. What's going to happen is your plant is going to take longer to die without water. I do not understand why people all the time, they assume because they have a drought tolerant plant that the plant's still going to grow, it's still going to be productive, it's still going to look amazing without any water. Let's look at another drought tolerant plant in my area, and that's going to be most stone fruits. Yes, once the stone fruits are fully rooted in the ground, they have a taproot system. They can go a long time without water simply because they can tap into the soil deeper than most plants to get that water. But if you don't water it, they're not gonna grow. They're not gonna fruit. So if you have a stone fruit and it has been in the ground for a little while and you're wondering why in the world it's not growing or fruiting, most likely you're not watering it. So if whoever sold it to you told you didn't have to water your plant because it's drought tolerant, well, that is a complete lie. Another plant that is drought tolerant in my area and most of the United States is a moringa tree. Yes, you see this one right here? This is a rescue. A customer of mine wanted to rip it out of the ground, so I did just that, but guess what? I kept it and put it over here. My horses keep eating the lower branches, but check this out, it's still alive. What makes this plant drought tolerant? It's not because it holds water inside its trunk, it's because of the vigorous, strong taproot that goes straight down into the ground. This is why most people do not have to water their moringa tree. Not because the plant is drought tolerant and it doesn't need any water, it's because the root system of this plant goes like several feet into the soil and it can tap water deep below the ground, even deeper than the stone fruits, the pomegranates, and most of the plants that I have here at the nursery. The taproot of this plant can easily go 10-20 feet in the ground. That is the only reason why your tree, your drought tolerant plant, is growing. Not because it doesn't need water, it's because it's getting its water deep below ground. So stop bragging you have a drought tolerant plant and you don't have to water it and it takes care of itself. That is a lie. Yes, it's taking care of itself because it's getting the water deep below the ground, so that's why you don't have to water it. But guess what? If you give it water, it will grow even faster. And that's it, guys. Yes, drought tolerant plants, it's just a myth. Some plants can hold water and they will live longer without water than other plants. Other plants, it depends on the type of root system of the plant. And that is the only reason why they can go such a long time without water. The more rain you get, the more humidity you have in the air, the longer your drought tolerant plant will be able to go without you watering it. But if you live in the desert like I do, even drought tolerant plants will die, especially if they don't have any roots in the ground or if you just bought them and they are in a container. As always, guys, if you like my videos, don't forget to like them. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? As always, comment below if you have any questions, and I will see you next time.